thought I would do another chapter. Keep in mind, this is a book that I'm writing now. It's called Dreams in the Sand, and I am writing it and reading it to you. So there will be changes made. There is grammar errors here. The editor will have to fix it if they accept it. You know, there's always the possibility that they won't. But I am going to do another chapter reading. Today is a busy day. Today's Mother's birthday. So she's 83. And I am fixing to go see her. We're going to go have lunch and give her a little present. But anyway, this chapter is called The Bestest Day Ever. Now, if you remember the last chapter, Rubiana got an invitation to go to Caroline Parsons' birthday. So that's where we left off. And she was thinking she wasn't going to get to go because her mom and dad had got into it the night before, and her daddy had got toted off to jail. And her mama was on the couch, and she had taken some pills, and Rubiana was just devastated that she was just not going to get to go. All right, the bestest day ever. From the driveway, her classmates could see her coming down the road. She was tired and sweaty. If she had nothing else going for her, she had a determination the size of Texas. From the distance, she could see the girls jumping rope, and there were bubbles floating across the road. When Ruby started her journey to Caroline's house, she did not fully understand the definition of 3 miles. She does now. "Ruby!" Caroline shouted as she ran down the road to meet her best friend. "I knew you would come. I just knew it." Not all the girls had a heart as big as Caroline's. Ruby had wrapped her gift in an old newspaper. The tape was some she borrowed from her neighbor's shed when he wasn't looking. But to Caroline, it was the greatest. "Ruby, this is the bestest gift ever," said the birthday girl. They could hear Mrs. Parsons calling. It was time for cake and ice cream, so the girls skipped hand in hand back down the road. And probably for the first time in a good while, she smiled a real smile. She was tired and sweaty, but she was the happiest she had been in a very long time. "It's the bestest day ever," she said as they ran. It was not a dream, for she was still at Caroline's house. Her eyes took in every detail of the room. She couldn't stop staring at the family photos sitting on the end tables of the couch, and a great big one resting high above the fireplace. Oh, how she imagined a fire going in the fireplace. Her grandma had one, and she remembered watching the embers dancing around and the sounds of the wood burning down next to it. The wood burning down. There was the Bible that Mrs. Parsons said the girls couldn't play with, a pair of reading glasses lying next to it. In her mind, she wandered back through her own house. There were no family photos, as she could remember, sitting on the table by her couch. Only a little black ashtray and a lamp that came with the trailer. "This is the family den," Caroline had said last night. Ruby whispered the words to herself, "the family den." She loved the sound of that and repeated it more than once. Mrs. Parson had made pallets for each of them. Ruby laid as still as she could for as long as she could. It was morning, and for the first time since moving to Hattiesburg, she did not fall asleep hungry or listening to her father yelling at her mother. She did not have to watch Kitty to make sure the little sister didn't drink too much water before bed. She wasn't too cold or too hot. She was just perfect, and she didn't want it to end. In the room next to her, she could hear talking. Her curiosity insisted upon her getting up to see who it was. She peeped around the door and saw Mrs. Parsons standing at the stove cooking. Ruby took a big sniff. It was bacon. There was a man sitting at the end of the table reading a newspaper, but she could not see his face. The child eased up to a chair and sat down, quietly watching Mrs. Parsons. Unaware of it, she was humming a little song and sashaying her body as she was cooking. The only sounds coming from behind the newspaper were the turning of the pages and his occasional sip of coffee. Just as before in the family den, Ruby's eyes noticed every detail of the kitchen. The beautiful salt and pepper shakers on the big table, the flowers on the curtain above the sink. She noticed they could get ice and cold water by pushing the button on the refrigerator door. Next to the refrigerator was a cookie jar filled with Oreos. Ruby wondered if she could have one of them before she went home. The bacon splattered, catching both Mrs. Parson and Ruby by surprise. "Ouch!" Caroline's mother yelled, but not too loud to wake the girls. "You all right over there?" her husband asked. "Yeah, I guess I was just doing more dancing than cooking." "You want some more coffee?" she responded. Mrs. Parsons noticed Ruby for the first time. "And do you want some juice or chocolate milk?" she asked their little visitor. Dr. Parsons lowered his paper to see the little girl sitting beside him. Ruby nodded and said, "Chocolate milk." "Good morning. Did you enjoy the birthday party?" Dr. Parsons asked his table guest. Ruby nodded yes. "You got a big table," she replied. "It's because we have a big family," he told her. Well, something's happened to the laptop. One of these days, I'm going to be rich. Like, share, and comment. Well, I guess that's it for the day because the laptop froze up. I hope you like it. It's a work in progress. And as I said, I've written the book in my head. I know the ending. I know the middle. I know all the details. It's just putting it on paper. Y'all have a great day. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Do the whole thing. Thanks.